Oh, well, it's a good start. Okay, here we go. Let me just get this screen right. Right, hi. How you doing, people? It's Dogman Teepee Hunting. If you're listening to this, it'll be on the Interdimensional Voyagers podcast. A bit of a mouthful, both of those are, I know. But it's another interview we've got. I've got a co-host as well. You know him, you love him. Colin Kilty from the Dark 66 YouTube channel. He's come on really to help me with this because we have a guest on that has an awful wide spectrum in the world of paranormality and ranging right up to cryptids, UFOs. I mean, it's the whole shebang. So I need a little bit help. Colin's the man when it comes to, as we know, cryptids. Without any delay at all, I'm going to bring Colin on. Hi, Cole.
Hey, Phil. Thanks for inviting me on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for coming. As you know, we've got Mr. Matt Harvey on from Deep Woods Paranormal.
What a fantastic channel that is as well. It is.
Yes, I know, and I do honestly suggest to anybody, if you're interested in from ghosts to cryptids, honestly, this channel absolutely fantastic. It's on Spreaker. It's on most streaming services. Where you get your podcasts. I've been listening to it avidly for the past week, if not longer. Just like as soon as I was talking to Matt, I thought I've got to listen, and very addictive. He's got some great guests on, and also he does monologues as well. In a way, he does like observations, self observations, about this about this thing with like ghosts and specters and phantoms and shadow beings and goes on. So a bit like myself, I tend to sort of go on a little bit, like that, but not half as good as Matt does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So I shall bring him on without any further ado, if that's okay, Colin. Here we go. Hi.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you guys.
Oh, thank you for having us. Thanks for coming on. I mean, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome to be on with you guys. I'm looking forward to it.
As I say, I've been listening to your channel, and it's like absolutely fantastic. Really, really good. I'd recommend it to anyone. How long ago did you start that channel? Can I ask?
The audio recording podcasts about 3 years ago now. We've got over 200 podcasts now. The original podcast, I went back and they were terrible. They were terrible. I had no idea what I was doing when I first started. Somebody goes, "Oh yeah, you should do a podcast." I'm like, "What the hell? No, I don't want to do a podcast." Sit there and talk about things, and people like they'd be bored. They'd probably turn me off 5 minutes in. But so yeah, it started out with a couple of members of my group said, "Hey, we really need a podcast." And so, I said, "Okay, let's sit down, let's record this." And so I started into it, and I did a 5-minute recording, which I absolutely hated. Put it out there, and people actually listened. I was like, "Wow, okay, so people are interested in my stories." And so, as I started getting going, we got promoted to another channel. Speaker actually called us and said, "Hey, we really like your podcast. Come on over here, and we'll take care of you." And they really do, by the way. So if you haven't gone over to Speaker, they're great. But yeah, I just started telling my stories, from start to now. My story starts actually back when I was a kid. I've experienced everything from angels to demons to ghosts to all kinds of other things I can't explain. I had my first Bigfoot encounter back around 2012 or something like that. I didn't believe in Bigfoot either. I just thought they were just a story people made up to scare their kids back into the house at night, and until you've had your own encounter with anything, I don't care what it is, Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, aliens, I always say, I don't expect anyone to believe until they've had their own encounters where they can say it couldn't be anything else but. And I'll tell you what, it was insane, the Bigfoot encounter we had. I'll get into it real quick and then we'll go back into ghosts here. But I used to do ghost tours at a place called Black Bear Canyon up in the Santa Ana Mountains out in Orange County, California. And this place is, I used to call it Shadowland because there were shadow people everywhere, all kinds of shadows, big, small. They would dart around back across the road. And just to give you guys a layout, it's up in the Santa Ana Mountains. It's kind of between, it's kind of where the deserty part of California ends. Then you get back up into the mountain range where there's actually forest. There's pine trees and stuff like that. And the higher you go, the elevation is about 2,500 feet. So the higher you go, the more trees and stuff you actually get. And there's actually snow up about 5,000 feet up there sometimes. So I used to do ghost tours there. It was a place that I went when I just basically ended my California ghost hunters spree. Basically, I'd run a group for about 15 years, and I was honestly just burned out. And I'll get into that in a minute here. So, anyways, I started doing ghost tours up there after I started researching up there, and we had gone up there as a team with the California Ghost Hunters one time, and we had crazy experiences. We just had saw a lot of shadows. When I first started back in the early 90s, we didn't have the technology we have today. I mean, we were still using the big VHS cameras with the tapes in them and flashlights, and we had like an audio recorder that actually had an actual small little tape in it, and clunky, loud machine, really hard to hear anything because all you hear is click, click, click as it was recording. Couldn't get hardly any EVPs. And then, of course, they went digital, which has been a major upgrade for EVPs and doing paranormal research. So anyways, we were up there one night, and I think we just had, we didn't have very much. We had one flashlight, one of those old Energizers flashlights with, I think it had 2 D-cell batteries in it. And we weren't prepared at all. We had some water with us and stuff like that. And this is a location, we didn't have cell phones back then. And they were just starting to come out, showing my age here. But we walked into this place and we didn't know what to expect. We had heard all kinds of bad things. There's been murders up there. There's been lots of deaths, lots of fighting between the Native Americans and the Mexican settlers who originally owned California. And then also fur trappers got into a fight with each other up there. And there was an onslaught of just bullets flying back and forth over horses and stuff like that. And then, there's Indians that were slaughtered because they stole horses and stuff like that. It's a very harsh area up there. It's basically in the middle of Orange County, but it's super secluded. If you screamed bloody murder and there wasn't anybody else around, nobody would hear you. I mean, it's miles to the next closest house or convenience store or whatever. So you're truly out in the middle of nowhere. And so I started doing ghost tours after I went up there and started researching for about 2 years. I used to do videos. That's where I started my YouTube channel, my original YouTube channel that got taken down after I posted some UFO stuff that the government didn't like. But they took my channel down. They took my Facebook page down. They crashed my computer, literally burned my computer. And that's the story of another day. But so after about 2 years of research, I was like, damn, this place is really haunted. And it's really hard to say a place is haunted. You really have to have a lot of evidence and a lot of, basically you have to be able to bring other people there, and they have to have their own experience. Like I said before, they have to be able to experience something that they can say could be possibly paranormal. And this is one of those places where anything could happen. You could see an alien, you could see a ghost, you could see a Bigfoot, you could see a shadow person. Who knows what else you could see up there? Dogman. I mean, you could see almost anything up there. Would not surprise me. So I'm standing there, and to describe this place. So it's a single wide road that used to go from Orange County to Riverside. It's a very dangerous road. There's been numerous accidents up there and supposedly deaths by people dying up there. So essentially, they closed it off back in the late 70s, and they wanted to keep it as something. Now it's a fire access road because they have fires up there every once in a while. It burns really bad sometimes. But it's blocked off for public transportation. You can't drive up there anymore. You can drive up to a gate and that's it. And then it's basically just a walking path at this point. And you can go explore. It goes up into the Cleveland National Forest and stuff like that. The canyon itself is actually on an earthquake fault, which is interesting. I think that's possibly where part of the reason there's so much activity up there. I think that the earth gives off energy up there. I've been up there when there was a small earthquake. I was like, whoa, what's this? We're moving. And I'm like, holy crap. And then the activity picked up. So,
Matt, can I ask something? Yeah. Do you mind if I ask something? What was your first experience? How old were you, and what was your first experience?
My first experience, God, must have been, I think it was an angel. A baseball was coming through a window, and I was like, I don't know how old I was. I must have been only months old. And I just remember this woman appearing in white. And as she kind of appeared, she put her hand up, and this baseball came through the window, and she stopped it from hitting me. And then it just dropped to the ground. So that was probably my first experience with the paranormal. And I've had multiple near-death experiences as well, unfortunately. But, I don't want to get into too much religious stuff on here. Because that's not everybody believes. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had encounters with so many things I can't explain. I just, I can't tell you what it is or what it isn't. I can just tell you what the story is. And I always tell people they need to make up their own mind as to what it was. So
what do you think? Why do you think, Matt, why do you think that is that, you're more predetermined to witness these things?
Honestly, I think that somebody told me one time that I give off an energy or light, and they're drawn to the light, and I give off everybody gives off a light, an energy, an aura, whatever you want to call it. But my light is much brighter than other people's, from what I've been told by a psychic. And she said, you need to kind of dim that a lot because you're drawing everything to you. The good, the bad, and everything else in between, interdimensionals. They're all drawn to you. And that could be the reason I've had so many experiences with everything from ghosts to UFOs to Bigfoot to whatever. I don't know if I've ever seen a Dogman. I may have encountered one. I found prints up by a friend's property one time that I didn't know what they were at the time. And so I submitted them to a friend of mine, and he looked at them. He's like, these are Dogman prints. I thought they were lizard man. They were literally these huge, almost like a chicken foot, but it had this long, and I'm like, what is this? And I showed him the pictures. He's like, oh my gosh, it's a Dogman. And I had no idea what it was. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that just, I guess certain people I was more open as a kid to it. My parents didn't believe in that. My mom was heavily Catholic, and my dad was a non-believer. So, but they never told me it wasn't real. They never told me ghosts weren't real. I never had that experience. So, my wife grew up completely opposite of me. They encouraged ghosts in her family, but and that's why she's more open to it and stuff like that.
There's some. Sorry, Carl. Sorry, did you want to say something?
No.
Some people believe that this, this opening of the door, which opens out onto a wider spectrum of experience. So might be a case of me myself. I had like you, Matt. I had ghostly encounters. I can't explain, and it led on to sightings of strange lights in the sky, orbs, other things. And it wasn't until a little later in life that I kind of approached and done some digging about, came up with a diary of my grandmother, and she had experiences much the same as I did. And some people do think it's like hereditary, that these things kind of follow a bloodline, if you like. Do you believe that that is something which has some validity or validity in?
It could be. I don't ever tell anybody they're right or wrong because I don't know. I mean, the more I research this, the scarier it gets, to be honest with you. The more I research the Bible, the more I research ghosts and UFOs and Bigfoots and stuff like that, the more I'm seeing that they're all tied together somehow. And it's almost like some of us can see through, they call it the veil. I hate that. I honestly believe it's almost like a book where we're on one page and they're all on another different pages. And sometimes somehow we cross through that page, or they cross through the page onto our page and go back, if you will. So it's almost like the dimensions are stacked on top of each other. And I think that sometimes they'll cross through our dimension back into theirs. I think that could possibly explain why sometimes you see Bigfoots that supposedly disappear. I think that could possibly be part of it. They're crossing through a dimension into ours or back, or we're crossing into theirs. I think as we go on, I think those dimensions are getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and we're all starting to kind of get closer and closer and closer together. I also think once you've had an experience with whatever paranormal experience you've had, I think it also opens you up. You start to be more aware of your surroundings and things that you weren't seeing before. You're now all of a sudden starting to see. For me, as a kid, I was haunted since my childhood. I mean, I've had experiences since I was just a little kid. I was terrified of ghosts when I was a kid, all the way into my early teens till I met my wife. And, closet door would open, close. Something literally out of bunk bed literally would try and pull me out of the bunk bed, the top bunk. But I always pull my pillow out, straight out from under my arms. It would go straight down and then turn around, come back and be at the foot of the ladder. And I went to crawl down there one night on my tummy, and I was about 6 or 7, and I grabbed the pillow and something literally yanked it back. And I hear this creepy little girl's voice laughing at me. And I just freaked me out. And then shadows going around the room. I had no idea what was going on. Found out I had, the house that we lived in had possibly been built on Indian burial ground, which they didn't move the bodies. They just moved the graves. And
right.
So,
Okay.
that's a terrible experience.
Yeah. Not good.
Not right,
not
isn't
good.
it? Isn't that?
Mm.
I'm like you, Matt. I had a difficult childhood. I had all sorts of things happen to me. Again, I was like you, scared of ghosts. My parents says they found me sat up in bed doing symbols on the wall, real weird symbols. But like you, I went to a clairvoyant when I was a teenager, and she said the same thing. You have an aura, and you are chosen to do this. And then I went a few years back, got told the same thing. It wasn't until I was about a teenager. Do you feel like your path of life has been chosen to do this?
That's what somebody's told. I've actually been told that by multiple people.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more of a protector than anything. As a kid, I mean, I could see all the way up till about 6. I could see spirits like they were you and I. I had no idea. Somebody, would be walking down the hallway, and my parents would be ahead of me, and all of a sudden somebody would walk by them in our house, and I'd be like, "Did you see the guy that just walked by?" And I turn around and be gone. They'd be like, "What are you talking about?" They thought I was Looney Tunes, and never could explain it to them. And then something happened when I was about 6. They call it shutting off. Scared the hell out of me so much that I shut off. And I still see ghosts and stuff like that. I just don't see them as clear as I used to. I don't know what happened. I can't recall it. But the psychic once told me that you had an experience. They asked me, what happened when you were 6? I'm like, I have no idea. Oh my God, it's freezing behind me. Sorry. Okay, back off. Sorry, there's something standing to my right here. Just like a cold hand on my shoulder here. It's not cold in here, but it's freezing. I got the chills. I got goosebumps all down my arms. But yeah.
So you get it. You get that in your where you are at the moment. You often do you often get entities coming up in that room?
They're all the dolls. Well, not all of them. All but about one of the dolls. The Howdy Doody doll is not haunted. But also along this bookshelf here, there's items that have attachments, if you will. Like I was saying earlier, this doll here, she's creepy as hell. I mean, you can't see her eyes because the hat's over her eyes. but if you take the hat and you pull the brim up, wherever you go in the room, her eyes are fixed. They're like painted on,
Right.
but they're glossy, and it's, you swear to God, they're following you around the room. The Raggedy Andy doll behind me, he, like I was saying earlier, he has like a little kid. He's haunted by a little kid, and he has this little face that pops out, like a little real human face that pops out, and he'll literally look around the room, and it's crazy. He just, he likes to sit there and watch what's going on. And they all like attention. The more attention I pay to him, the more active it gets in here. But
if you were to put a time lapse camera facing those dolls, would you capture them moving, the faces?
I haven't caught them moving yet. There is actually a camera up here in the corner that faces exactly that way for that exact purpose. It's motion. I have it set to motion. So it's recording any motion here, and because we have cats and stuff like that, they rip my poster off the wall. But cats and dogs that come in and out here, it triggers it all the time if I don't just leave it on motion. So they are being recorded. I had what was it? I had video cameras. We had a DVR system in a box. I'd unplugged all the cameras, literally on the floor over here. And one night, I'm looking at it going, what? Like, the camera kept triggering. I'm like, oh, those damn cats. And I look at it, and the IR lights, now they're not plugged into any power, kept flashing off and on. So it's catching the flashing of the IR lights. I'm like, what are they doing? What is going on? Why are they using the IR lights? It was almost like an SOS. So I came in the next morning. I'm like, is everybody okay? What's going on? I talked to them just like they're us and like they're here. I don't know. That probably makes me a little Looney Tunes, but anyways, so I asked, are you okay? And nothing else happened. So I was like, okay, I got that recorded, but I don't know what ended up happening with that. So
how long did these lights last, Matt, if you don't mind me asking?
They went on. The one time it flashed for about 5 minutes. The recording is only about 15 seconds long, and then it goes to another recording. So
do they have capacitors in the circuit?
Is it what?
Do they have capacitors?
No, it's just basically a little cameras. It's iHome cameras. We use them for ghost hunting. We put them up when we like a DVR system. Again, I like these because they catch motion.
I thought it was like store electric, running capacitors. I thought it might keep running while it's switched off.
Yeah, no, it won't. It has to be plugged into our power source. Sometimes we'll use external battery chargers to plug them in where we don't have power if we're doing Bigfoot research. Sometimes we'll put them up and turn them on. As long as we have Wi-Fi, I use my Wi-Fi hotspot out there. A lot of times we use trap cams to do Bigfoot research. But yeah, there was no power source. I was looking around. I'm like, okay, did I leave one plugged in? No, there's no power sources connected. The night before, we had to use a couple of those external battery chargers in a couple of spots because there wasn't power anywhere close, because you actually have to plug them into the wall. And I'm like, okay, I didn't leave anything plugged in. No, okay. I went through the whole box. I'm like, nope, I don't know why that happened. But the batteries actually were in the tub below it. So it was like they're using the batteries to use the cameras. They drained all the batteries. They literally drained all the batteries to do that.
I've had that. But I just thought, like, capacitors, the store electric. It's like when you switch your TV off, and it's unplugged, and you see the light still on, don't you, for about a couple of minutes. So I thought that's maybe the
right. Yeah, that does happen too. Our TV goes on out there every once in a while. So we don't have the regular TV. We just have the internet TV, and you have to literally turn on the TV, and then we have Roku. So you have to go into Roku and pick up, an app, Hulu or Netflix or whatever, and then you got to go to a show before something comes on. Well, we'll turn the TV off. We'll walk away and come back out there to grab whatever, 20 minutes later, and the TV will turn on full blast. We don't have the volume up that loud. That's on full blast. It scares the hell out of you. And it always happens when your back's turned to the TV. So you're like, whoa. They're just pranksters. These little kids are pranksters. They do like to move around the house. You see a little shadows darting around every once in a while. They're only about 4 feet tall, maybe 4.5 feet tall. And you can tell it's a little kid.
When you go out ghost hunting, do you ask because you obviously with the entities that you have in that room. You, like you said, you go in and you treat them as if they're just normal people.
Right.
And hi, how you doing, guys? You all right? Lovely morning this morning.
Mhm.
I've got a full schedule, and I'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's a really good thing to do, because
Mhm.
I very often, when I go out and go ghost hunting myself, I tend to, what I tend to do is, instead of calling out and asking things like, is anyone there? Can you answer? Can you come close to this meter? Can you trigger this meter? Can you jump through this hoop?
Right.
Can you, yeah, it's rather kind of like, I don't like that way of doing things, really. I used to, but I stopped doing it. Now I'm a little
Right.
more like you, Matt. I kind of like I say to them, I say, look, if you're here, my name's Phil, and if you're seeing me, can you let me know if I look like a a ghost or an apparition to you? When you were alive, did you often wonder what would happen when you passed over? Did you ever wonder that? Because I do. That's the reason I'm here. And
Right.
I kind of like strike up, if you like. It's it's madness, but I strike up a one-ended conversation until I get some kind of positivity from a reply, something that comes through. I use a lot of the normal, the trimeters, the K2s, which I use. I don't hold a lot of confidence in K2s, as it were, but I do use them. I tend to sort of put them in an area far away from me, and then if they light up and they go to red, they trigger. That's great, but I don't hold them with me all the way around, because sometimes they're funny. If you press that button which switches them on, switches them off, and you just tap it slightly, the lights go up.
Mhm.
So you got
Right.
to be careful of that. But
Exactly.
yeah, trimeter. I always get like background readings of the area before I go in.
Right. Mhm.
But do you think that with these entities that we're dealing with, as people would say, ghosts, or do you think that they are people that have passed away that have come back? Is With your experience, what do you think they are?
Well, I'm pretty sure they're like stuck in between here and in heaven or wherever you want to say they go, or they just haven't left, if you will. Again, I don't want to get into religion on here, but I think that they just get stuck. I don't think they've left. And I've had, like I said, I've had multiple near death experiences, and every time I've said no, I'm not ready to go, and I get sent back, which is good. I've been lucky enough to get sent back. Um, my last near death experience, I went to a completely different place. I was kind of in between. I think I went into shock. I have allergies, and I had a food allergy issue, and I was starting to go into shock, and I felt like I was sleeping, but I wasn't sleeping, and I went into this. I don't know. I was like floating around. Maybe I was out of my body. I have no idea. I can't tell you what it was, but I was floating in this world. It was like weird. It was like almost like storm clouds, but I was seeing like heads of people with like tails. It was weird, like a comet tail. And then there was other people that looked real, and then it was just weird. And I call it now. I call that the in between, and I think that's kind of where they are. Like I said before, if you have two pages where you're moving on to that next page into the next dimension or whatever, I think that's what happens with us. I think we move to another level, if you will. When you leave this life, you move into another life. I think you kind of move on to that next chapter or whatever your being is going. And I think it's kind of like in between the two pages, if you will. I think you're stuck in between, and I think that's kind of what ghosts are. I think they're kind of caught between here and there. Maybe they're not finished with whatever they were doing. Maybe they don't know that they're dead. I mean, I've had EVPs where I said, I said out loud, you're dead, right? And you hear this, oh, we're dead.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry, you didn't
Yeah.
know that you had passed on. and we used to cross spirits over all the time. I don't do as much anymore because I think there's spirits that are actually guarding places and people. And you're
It's
not
funny, isn't
supposed
it?
to
It's like, it's almost like kind of when you said that just then, we're dead,
yeah.
that response of surprise, it makes me wonder, in a way, are they living on a existence, a plane which is more or less identical, that they are oblivious to the fact that they passed over, much
Yeah.
the same as if they were to see us and they saw us as a ghost, and they would think, wow, do you realize you were a ghost? Well, no, because I'm walking around my own world, my own plane. I'm walking around, I'm talking, I'm breathing, I'm doing it there. Yeah, but you to us, you're a ghost. It's strange,
Yeah.
isn't it, when you think down those lines?
Well, I've asked them if they can see us before, and they say yes. Can you hear me? Yes. And when I use the ghost box, which I use in here all the time, because I used to do EVP sessions all the time, and we'd get this and that other thing. Then I recorded the actual spirit box, not this box. The spirit box one time, which is annoying as hell, as you all know. If you've ever listened to one, I thought it was just a piece of junk until I actually plugged a real speaker into it and found out, it actually does somewhat work. About, I don't know, what, 5% of what comes out of there is actually real. It isn't until that static and everything stops and it goes quiet, and all of a sudden you get a voice that comes out like I'm talking now, that you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? You're like, okay, maybe there is something to this. I just thought, like I said, I thought it was a piece of junk, but this thing's so much better. It's so much better. If you haven't used a ghost box, you have to be in the right place at the right time with this thing. But I mean, we've had so much stuff come through there that
is that ghost box the one is that ghost box, Matt? Is that the one which is like a radio and it changes frequency really quickly from one frequency to another?
Both the spirit box and the ghost box are very similar. The ghost box basically does the same thing, but it doesn't have that scanning through radio frequencies as loud. There's not all that white noise. You can just hear it scanning through radio frequencies. And on this one, I mean, we've had voices come through, like a friend of mine. I had no idea. We were at another investigation, an old jail here, and we were sitting there, and all of a sudden this voice that sounded very familiar comes through. My friend Joe, he's Cajun. He had a little bit of a Cajun accent, and I don't know if he was originally from Louisiana, but he lived on the Texas-Louisiana border, and he would say brother a lot, brother. I can't even say it the way he says it. But anyways, we're sitting there and we're in a cell and we're trying to communicate with whatever's there. And all of a sudden I hear, hey, brother. I'm like, what? I'm like, Joe, why is that coming through? And I had no idea. He had passed away about a month before. He was at one of our Bigfoot research clients. He had, a bunch of land up in the national forest out in the Sabine National Forest. He had died in the fire. His camper unfortunately went up in the middle of the night and he perished. But anyways, so we're sitting there and this voice comes through. I'm like, that sounds really familiar. And my wife wasn't with me. My hearing's a little bit bad because my years of trucking ruined my hearing. Now I wear hearing aids, which also gives me advantage to ghost hunting sometimes. But so I'm sitting there listening to this. I'm trying to figure out what it's saying, and we have a whole group of people with us. And I'm like, okay, it's not a normal investigation. We were kind of just doing a general public, come check this out, and we'll take you through a tour of this location. And Amanda usually is my ears, my wife Amanda, and she can hear things better than I can. So I'm like, what the hell? And I didn't know who it was. I'm like, who is this? And it's talking as clear as I'm talking now. There's no static, no changing of channels, just a voice coming through. And that's not normal for this thing. It's annoying as hell sometimes to listen to it, but it's clear. We can understand it, except for he's, like I said, he has a little bit of a slang to his voice. So we're sitting there listening, and I'm like, what is this? And I thought it was something bad at first. So I'm like, okay. So, and then I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like Joe. And this went on for 20 minutes, just him talking nonstop. And so I'm like, okay, he was very religious. And so I started recording with my iPhone because I'm like, okay, I have to listen back to this later. This is not the appropriate time for this, but I walked away from him. I said, okay, hang out. And he went on for 20 minutes. We found out that he said, continue on with your research, brother. You're doing good, or something like that. And at the end, I'm like, oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Anyways, yeah. So my wife actually sat down and listened to the whole thing and wrote out. It was a whole message, personal message to me, which was awesome. And then we found out a month later he had perished. Yeah, because we were supposed to be going up there and kept calling him like, what the hell? And I finally found out that, something happened to him. And it's like, oh, crap. But, if you ever had wanted to see a Bigfoot, I mean, that would have been the place to go. I mean, his property was special, very, very special. I mean, Bigfoot's walking right past you as you're standing there. I mean, literally within 100 yards of you. Anyways, but yeah.
I've got one quick one on the paranormal one. That's all, just one quick one, and then we'll shift tack a little bit if it's okay. But with I'm Church of England. I'm active Christian, but would you say it's worked for me in the past when I've come up against entities where they've been a bit intrusive, sorry, to me. One sort of part of that I've had it where my energy's been zapped to such an extent I've just slumped like a spoilt teenager, and just like that, and just like almost passed out. But with by saying a prayer or the Lord's Prayer, it kind of, even in my head, it kind of gets rid of them. It kind of, they don't like that sort of thing, which I find fascinating when we think that we're talking about people that are passed over. And in that instance, but it could be a case that those entities which are trying to tap into us too closely are more on the demonic side or more on the bad intent side. But do you use precautions like in your room where you are? Do you use precautions of religion, or do you use precautions of paganism? Or
I do a lot of things in here. Positive energy is always, my house is very well protected. This room is blessed just because some of these entities, there's one little girl up there she's a little mischievous, and sometimes she pushes it a little bit. And there's other entities. I've been doing this so long. I clear homes. I've dealt with the negative side of the paranormal. I've run across things that, the negative side, unfortunately, which I absolutely hate. I hate those cases. But I have cleared homes. I've helped people. I've been part of an exorcism, which I would never do again unless I had to. Talking about terrible crap. I mean, visions and stuff of people. This kid basically, he assassinated somebody. He was part of a gang, and they went to a satanic ritual unbeknownst to him, and to become part of the gang he had to basically shoot somebody in the back of the head. And I saw all this. I saw him do it, and as he's sitting there, his face turns black. And I mean, literally, as we're sitting there, doing the whole exorcism, he's getting, angels appear behind him. It's freezing cold. You can see his breath. He's talking in some language. I don't know. We didn't even know what the language was. Angels appear behind him. You just start seeing this black thing being pulled out of him, and he didn't want to let go of it. And the priest walked out in the middle of it. He freaked out, and I don't know what he saw, but he freaked out. But yeah, when you deal with anything paranormal, you never know what you're walking into. Demonic entities.
Was that guy that was possessed? Was he? Was there any warning signs of his possession? Was there any build up to it, or was it?
Yeah, after he went to that, his girlfriend said he went out one night, he came back, he started acting differently. She said his face would turn black from time to time, and so we already knew. She had already contacted the priest, and the priest requested that I be there just to document it. And again, this is 30 some odd years ago. Yeah, 30 some odd years ago. There wasn't a whole lot of, the handy cams and all the gear we have today. There wasn't really much that we could do to document it except for me to physically be there as a witness. He called me a witness, is what he called me. But yeah, I mean, it was terrible. 3 or 4, I think we went on for almost 6 hours, and we kept having to hold him down, and he was just cursing and all this other stuff. I'm going to kill you. And it just, yeah. And
it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I'll be honest with you. I'm also a minister of the Church of Life, and I have been present with more demonic, with the more demonic entities,
Right.
shall I say? And it is a labor. It is a labor,
Yeah.
when you do meet these entities, come face to face with them. It's it's quite fascinating, but and the fascinating part of it is with them where they differ from ordinary ghosts. I find, I don't know if you think the same or feel the same, but they're a lot more physical, a lot more materialistic, a lot more they're able to move objects with ease, they're able to influence with ease, they're able to project thought with ease, with normal run-of-the-mill, if you like, ghosts, if there is such a thing as a run-of-the-mill ghost, or haunting. It's a lot more subtle, it's all encompassing. Some of the entities, the darker ones, are beyond evil. They're kind of they emanate a feeling, I don't know if you feel the same, of absolute despair.
Yeah, I mean, the feeling of dread was definitely there when we were doing that, and since that, I mean, I've dealt with demons. That's what terrified me when we moved into as a kid, we moved into the second house. That was right when I met my wife. I mean, literally stuff that I can't explain. Like a whole room shook back and forth, like we're having an earthquake. The chandeliers are going back and forth, and I look down the hallway. The chandelier's not moving. I yell down to my mom, who's about 100 feet away in the kitchen. We had a really big house at that point. My parents were well off. And Mom, did you feel the earthquake? And she's like, no. And I look back, I'm like, nope, it's still moving. But before that happened, a cold breeze had gone by me. And I was always haunted in the house. My friends would come spend the night and never come back. I mean, you literally see footprints like come through the floor and move around. And whatever was there was not good. It was just definitely demonic in nature. I saw my closet door would come open and this cloaked figure with a skull for a face would float out and disappear. And then one night I had a bed frame, literally the bottom of the bed frame just went boom. I was about 180 pounds then. I was in high school. I was really in shape. I was playing football. I was a big, strong kid. And my dad's like, well, you bent that. You did that. And it didn't snap. It bent. The bed frame literally bent up. So we took it out when 3 or 4 of my big friends, took it out to the garage, and we're like, literally, we turned it over to the side that had not been bent. And we're sitting there like trying to pull it down and putting all our weight on it, hitting it with a sledgehammer. We couldn't get that thing to move at all. Whatever bent that, I mean, had to have so much strength. It's not even funny. But yeah, I mean, the demonic side of things, like you were talking about, let me put it this way. We are just like an energy, right? We consume food to create energy. Our stomachs are like an engine. Our brain is like a computer. And we have these electrical currents that go through our body. There's actually even a EMF detector that can detect us. And if you go close to it, one of my friends brought one time, and we were walking by and it kept going off. And I'm like, oh, okay. So everybody stay away from that thing. And it did actually go off a couple of times when nobody was anywhere near it. But so I think demons, they have their own energy. They're able to do, and so angelics energy as well, angels too. They have their own energy. But I think that a lot of, I deal with demonic energy all the time. They're constantly after me. As soon as you see them and they see you, that's it. you're constantly going to be dealing with them. They're always going to be coming after you. And, I've gotten multiple EVPs where I've been threatened and stuff like that. And again, I clear homes from time to time and go through and get rid of things. But, sometimes when you listen back to the EVPs, you're like, what in the hell? I'm going to kill you, F you, all kinds of terrible language, threats against you.
You often get, I often get scratches. I wake up in the morning and get scratches on my legs, my ankles, that sometimes. And when it happens, it goes in spates. It goes it happens for about 2 or 3 days and then quietens down because you kind of, I say prayer. I kind of look more into myself and I kind of say, right, okay, let's get this in perspective. I also use, it sounds a bit weird, really, but I also use things like bells. I hang bells on entrances, doors, front door, back door. I make sure that the thresholds are. I never put a welcome mat out. I never put a welcome.
Yeah, that's what somebody told me not to do that one time because we had a big sign that said "Welcome." She's like, "You have like conveyor belt of spirit coming through your house."
In.
Yeah. Like you got to take that down.
I know Cole's dying to ask you a little bit about the cryptid side of things, aren't you, Cole?
Well, to be honest, I'd just stay on the bit of the paranormal, really. He was on about the priest and the ghost entity with the monk robe and the skull face. I interviewed a guy in January with the same thing. He kept getting this entity. And funny enough, I interviewed, which I told you, Phil, Rob Harvey about 6 months ago. He works for the British Church, the English Church. He's an exorcist. Same as you, Matt. He goes around claiming ghosts. And what he told me, that some ghosts go to the light. Some ghosts get stuck. Some go other places. But, he says a lot of them do get stuck. He has to go and talk to them and say, right, this is not what you need to do. Check my channel out and check my interview. But yeah, what he's told me about ghosts, I think you've just nailed it on the head, to be honest. You've said exactly what he was saying. But yeah, they do get stuck here in the area. And as Phil knows, I've had weird stuff here. It always seems to happen. I get the hitchhiker effect. I go to weird places like we all do, and something follows me back and starts banging doors and misting up my bedroom. My bathroom. It was all black. It was just like swirling mist. And I just said, "Do you mind? I need to use the toilet," and it just disappeared into the ceiling. I'm getting it all the time. It seems I'm getting that hitchhiker effect. But it's what you do is absolutely fascinating. And what you've said, it's just doubled up Rob Harvey. If you want to check the guy out, he's a British exorcist. He's done it 30 odd years. But yeah, same level as you, Matt, to be honest. But yeah, we'll go on to the cryptid set if you can,
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, I had my first Bigfoot sighting up at Black Star Canyon real quick. I had about 30 witnesses. We were horseshoed behind my car. We were parked on the side. There was just a dirt road basically, and on both sides is pretty much forest. And there's a barbed wire fence. It's privately owned, so you can't go over there, unfortunately. Good for the Bigfoots, bad for us. But so I'm giving a spiel because it gets dark up there. Sometimes it gets really dark where you can't see your hand in front of your face. And I'm telling them, safety things, stay together, don't wander off, blah, blah, blah. If you have a question, whatever, ask. As I'm giving the speech, two girls to the left side, there's basically the road's flat, and then there's a berm, and then it kind of goes down and then flattens out, and then there's an open area of pasture and weeds and whatever else. And then about, I don't know, from 30 to about 50, 60 feet, there's almost like a horseshoe of trees. And so, and teenagers go up there all the time and mess with people because they know it's haunted. They go up there to get scared or to have a good time on a Friday or Saturday night, right? We think we've all done it. Anyways, long story short, she goes, well, somebody's throwing rocks at us. I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't know anything about Bigfoot at that point. I'm like, rocks? I'm like, okay. All right. So let me know if it happens again. I went on with my spiel. She goes, well, no, it just happened again. I'm like, okay, you know what? This is ridiculous. Those damn kids, they're not supposed to be over there. I'm going to go yell at them before the cops get called and we all get kicked out of here. So I took 5 or 6 of the biggest guys. We walked up to the berm, and I had a little miner's light on top of my head. And I'm glancing from left to right, and I get about 45 degrees, and I'm standing there. I'm like, and my jaw just dropped. I'm like, what the hell is that? And literally there's this huge silvery gray, hairy covered thing standing there. This thing had to be pushing 14 feet. I mean, it was massive. And it, you know, I'm 6'2", about 300 pounds. And the arm on that thing was as big as I am. I mean, this thing was massive. I mean, it was probably about 2 feet wide. The arms were about 2 feet wide. They were just huge. Big, burly chest. Thing had a damn watermelon for a head, a large watermelon for a head. And I'm like, oh my God, they exist. And it felt like 5 minutes. I'm sure it was like 10 or 15 seconds later when they kind of came to, the people standing next to me. Matt, I hear this, Matt, do you have a camera? And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm like, so I ran over, and I used to keep a ghost hunting kit with me, like a K2, like we were talking about earlier, a little picture camera, a video camera, which I should have grabbed, and a few other pieces of ghost hunting equipment. So I ran over there, grabbed the actual picture camera, ran over there. And this is, granted, this is back in 2002, 2003. So the technology still is not that great at this point. So I'm like, I sat there and I flipped up it's a little Coolpix, Nikon Coolpix, and it has this little tiny flash, right? This thing's about 30 feet away. Flip the little flash up, take a picture. And this thing just looked at me and went like this and just grimaced and growled at us. And I'm like, oh my God. You know, this thing could have been over to us in 2 or 3 steps, probably. Could have covered that much ground. Stepped right over the barbed wire fence and ripped us all to shreds, and nobody would have known what happened. So, the smart person I am, I looked at the picture. I'm like, oh crap, it came out black. And it's dusk. It's not dark. It's dusk. So we can visually see it still, even without the light. But the camera couldn't. Even though I had my miner's light shine straight on it, I take another picture, and this thing just looked at us again, and I'm like, it just shook its head. I'm like, okay, it didn't kill us. So that was a good sign. And so I say out loud, you know, we can still see you, right? And it's just standing still. It wasn't moving. And so walks over behind this tree, and this tree's got about a 6-inch radius, right? It's about, I would say the tree was about 12 feet tall, and it's literally standing there with its shoulders and head well above the top of the tree. I know because I actually went over there and measured the tree, by the way, with a measuring tape because I wanted to know what I'd seen. The next day, I didn't go there after it disappeared, but it stood there and it grabs a tree like this. I'm like, what the hell is it doing? And I had no idea at this point in time. They shook trees or threw trees at people or whatever they do. And I'm like, okay, well, we can still see you. And it growled again. And when it walked over there, it took about 3 steps and didn't make any noise. Didn't shake the ground or anything. Then it stomped off. It got pissed. It stomped off. Boom, boom, boom. And it's shaking the ground as it was walking. It had to be about 600 to 1,000 pounds probably. Walks over behind some other trees, and you hear this grunting, growling. I'm like, damn, okay. So we continued on with the ghost hunt. But that was my first encounter, and I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, oh my God, they're real. You know, I was just completely changed.
Jealous.
How old were you then? How old were you, Matt? How old were you then?
I was probably about in mid-20s at that point in time. I was probably actually later 20s, probably almost close to 30. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they really do exist. And I'm calling my wife on the way home from the ghost hunt. I was about 45 minutes from home. And she's like, what are you smoking? What did you do? Did somebody give you something? I'm like, no. She's like, okay, I'll talk to you when you get home. And I'm just like, probably just rambling on like I am now. I'm so excited. And she's like, you know, and so I started thinking, oh my gosh, okay, you know, I had a tree knock happen back about 3 years before that. And I had several other what I thought were sightings. And I started going, okay, wait, what? I started looking back into this, and this show called Finding Bigfoot had just come out, and I'm like watching that show religiously to try and find out as much information about these things as I could. And I'm like, as I'm watching them, the witnesses talk about reports, I'm like, holy crap, that's happened to me. Holy crap, that's happened to me. And I started checking all these boxes. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. So I've had sightings, realistic sightings for about probably 7 or 8 years at that point in time. The very first sighting I think I really had was when we originally went up there with the California ghost hunters, about 8 years before, and we were walking down the path, and literally it just opens up. The canyon kind of opens up on both sides, and this thing was just squatted down. We thought it was a squatter. It was probably about, I don't know, probably had to be pushing at least 8 feet tall. Squatted down on the side of the road, like if you were just to sit, squat down like you're using the bathroom. And it literally got up and 3-stepped the road. So imagine a normal highway road, just a single lane road. It was like 3 or 4 feet off the road on the one side. It was just a shadow. We couldn't see it. All we saw was a silhouette. And it stepped right in the middle of the road, stepped over the other side of the road about 2 feet off, and then walked behind a tree. And we just chalked it up to a person. And so I think that was my first real Bigfoot sighting. But after that, I started seeing him night and day. I started going up there all the time. I was up there 4 or 5 days a week. And I would do tree knocks with a flashlight on the telephone pole, and I would get them back. And so one night we're up there, and there's all different canyons up there. There's something called the Deer Canyon, which is just across the way. And we kept hearing the coyotes go crazy one night. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I pulled out my phone. I was call blasting with my phone and recording with my audio recorder. And I had no idea until about 6 months later when I went back through the recordings. I used to go back through the audio recordings from whatever I'd been listening to, before, and listening back for EVPs or something that I missed, or going through photos. I always used to always review the footage and the audio or the video, pictures or whatever we had done. And so I'm listening back, and you hear this god awful in between the coyote calls. I'm like, okay, so maybe they are mimicking coyotes. Maybe they are trying to in between.
And those calls, you didn't hear it at the time. You didn't hear those calls at the time in between the coyotes.
No, I went back through. It was distant. It must have been really far away. But we did record it. You can clearly hear the scream. And so one time I was out with another couple, and we've been out there all night long, actually doing Bigfoot research, doing tree knocks and all this other stuff, and there was nothing. And so we're walking back out, and right next to where you walk out through the gate, there's a huge, just big boulder, essentially. And there's a set of trees that goes along it, so you can basically hide up there and look down. And I think this is where a lot of the Bigfoots are. I'd have to actually show you a video of the location for you to understand better. But there's like a line of trees in between, and there's the road in here. And then up above, there's a berm up here. So it came from the berm. We were walking out, and I'd been playing these screams for hours and hours and hours, and it was echoing through the canyons, and nothing. We got nothing back. Again, I was blasting with my phone with a Bluetooth onto a speaker and recording with my audio recorder. And as soon as we go to walk through the gate, I just turn off the audio recorder, and you hear this, way louder than I'm doing now. You could feel it reverberate off your chest. It was like right above us. And I'm like, it's right up there. And so I was like, oh, okay. And by the time I got the audio recorder back out of my pocket and hit record, it had just stopped. But you could feel it reverberate off your chest. So, people that say they have ultrasound, that could be true. I mean, it stopped us in our tracks. We literally stopped. And then real quick, as I was walking out one night, another time, I was out there all hours of the day and night. Sometimes a lot of time by myself with nobody else out there. And so I'm walking back out the gate one night, and I heard something to my left. I just thought it was a deer or something in open pasture as you get out the gate. And I'm looking over there, and I just felt like I was being watched. So I'm like, okay. So I had a flashlight, it was as bright as a headlight. So I started shining it out there, and I spotlighted a Bigfoot. And it's not very big. It's a juvenile. It was probably, it was just brown. It was about my height and my size, maybe 6'2", 6'3", maybe 200-300 pounds. And it was just standing there watching me. And I think it was what they call a scout. It was watching to make sure, that nobody walked in there while they were hunting or whatever, or just watching to make sure that if they do sleep at night, they were, protected.
Yeah.
So literally it stands there, and I'm probably blinding the hell out of it with a flashlight. And it basically finally turns. Like, their heads are pretty much attached to their shoulders. They can't physically turn their head like this. They physically have to turn their whole body. I think their mechanics are different than ours. I think the way they walk, I think their hips are a little more able to flex almost so their legs go straight. So everybody says, oh, they walk in a straight line. And that's every track I've ever found of theirs are pretty much one step and then one step almost like perfectly in front of it. I think they rotate their hips quite this way when they walk.
They have the most unusual. When you see one walking, they have a really unusual gait to their walk, their stride.
Yeah,
really
so
unusual.
it literally turned its hip and took one step this way. So it's literally almost like if you put one foot in front of the other as far as you could get your legs to go. Yeah. That's what it did. And it literally went like this and stared at me. And it was the Patterson-Gimlin film. If you've ever seen the Patterson, I'm sure you guys both have seen the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah.
It was exactly that same thing. I'm like, oh my God. And then it turned again, turned the other way, took a step, and then took a step, and it disappeared.
You know, over here we got a forest called Cannock Chase, and I've only seen a Bigfoot twice. And once at Cannock Chase, it's it's 33 miles of forest, I believe. It's, it's for over in the UK, it's a big forest. It's quite a big forest. So, and it's quite dense in places. And I saw this like flash coming up from, I thought it was a bird, first of all, coming up from the brush. And I thought, oh, wow, that's a really, sort of bright bird. And it just like sort of took off. And I thought maybe because we're walking up and, it sort of saw us and we were straight off out the brush and flew off. And I saw something in the distance between two trees. And it was very, very dark, really dark and big.
Yeah.
Anyway, lucky enough, I had the recorder on me and I had a grandson with us. He's only like 13 at the time, and all the while we were walking up, he didn't give a damn about Bigfoot. He was 13. He was just interested in TikTok and girls and all the rest of it, and so he's walking along and he'd have his phone in front of him, watching it, looking at his phone, playing a game or whatever, and I'll be like kind of going through the forest, and he kept saying to me, I could hear grunting like a like this, I couldn't hear it, but then my hearing is pretty buggered. It's not that great. And I turned the camera as I saw this thing like take off as flash, and I recorded it, and I recorded the figure behind it. Now the thing about gaits when they walk is when they first turn off, it looks as if it's going to fall over, topple forward. They walk in with such awkwardness that they kind of look as if they're going to fall first of all before they start striding, and then once they get their stride, they're gone.
Right.
They sort of awkward when they walk, don't they?
It's strange. Yeah, literally, when you see them, all of a sudden they almost literally like turn their shoulders when they walk too. It's almost like they turn the whole body. And then they turn, and then once, like you said, once they get going, once they take that first step or two and they get actually moving, they're good. I mean, the one I saw literally in the middle of his step, it basically turned its shoulders back to make sure I wasn't following it, and I think that's what it was doing. I think a lot of the time you'll see them turn the whole body instead of just just start to walk away to make sure that they're not being followed. And these things, a lot of people think that they, I've seen them belly crawl. I've seen them on all fours multiple times. They look like a giant bear is what they look like. And then, they also will go down they'll hide behind trees and stuff like that. They do all kinds of strange things. They're like a soldier. They know how to protect themselves. Supposedly they climb trees, but I've never seen one in a tree. I've heard multiple witnesses tell me they've come down from trees, scared the hell out of them. But I've never actually seen that yet.
Okay. Do you think, Cole? Any questions?
Can't think of any, to be honest. With you there.
Okay. I've got a question about, especially in the States, when people say they get scared, and they shoot, they fire a gun at one, and it seems to have no effect. Do you have any opinion on that? Do you think that?
Yeah, I mean, some Bigfoots depends on the Bigfoot. I mean, if you shoot a juvenile, if you shoot it with a big enough gun, they're going to go down. But an adult male, people don't realize these things get much larger than what you think they do. The people that see the 8 to 10 to 12 footers, those are the juveniles. They get much bigger. I've had multiple sightings of, people call them giants, 20 footers. I mean, I've measured where I saw this, like at Joe's camp, and I'll get into your question in just a second. We saw one that was hiding. His blind was there, and then there was a really large pine tree that was probably about, it was an old tree. It's probably a couple hundred years old. It was almost 3 feet wide. And literally this thing, I know because I helped him build the blind, his blind, the top of his blind, the roof of his blind was at 6 feet. And then there's a branch about 3 or 4 feet above that. This thing literally, you could basically see the hip at where but the tree branch was. And then it wasn't until this thing about 4 or 5 branches up, which is about another 3 or 4 feet, literally bent down. You could see it like pull a branch down and look at us. And of course, I'd just gotten there. I think that's why it was looking to see what's going on. I think they're just curious. And I didn't have my handy cam with me. I was just, coming up to say hi to Joe and how you doing, and here's what we're going to do for the night and whatever else, because he liked to investigate with us. And we're both like, oh my gosh. And as soon as I took one step to go run back to the truck and grab my video camera, that thing disappeared. I mean, but literally, we watched it push a branch down. So I'm like, oh crap. And I had a measuring tape with me, and we measured that branch. It was up about 16, 17 feet where the thing put its arm to push the branch down where it peered over. So we estimated it around 20 feet. And I saw that one during the day. It was black. I think the black ones get much, much bigger here, at least, than anything else. There's black, there's brown, there's tan, and then there's a reddish, brownish one. And this one's solid black. And one thing Joe, because he used to see them all the time. I mean, literally, I'm going back through, we have, I don't know, 400, 500,000 pictures from his trap cams and my traps combined, and video and stuff like that. I must have 1,000 hours worth of video from trap cams, because we just leave them up there. We go up there and put them up. And for anybody doing Bigfoot research, you got to put your cameras up at least 10 feet in the air, because a lot of the time, number one, they will walk right in front of them and block them. So you can't tell what it is. You just see a silhouette, a black silhouette. Also, they don't look up, from what I understand. They don't really look up that much. Have you ever seen the video from the national park where the Bigfoot walks by? There's an eagle camera and they're focused on the nest, and a Bigfoot literally walks by. They don't look up. They don't look up. You got to put them. Joe always told me you have to put them up 15, 20 feet. So anyways, I think when they get, let me go back into the sighting real quick and I'll get into your question. So we were sitting there middle of the day, sitting on a bench, and he lived on 55 acres up in the Sabine National Forest. It was like a football field almost, or a soccer field. So essentially, there was a road on both sides of his property, and then there was a road that went up, 2 roads that went up to the middle of his property that went through these tall trees where you could actually see it was clear. And I'm sitting there one day, and I'm looking up there, I'm going, wait a minute. Because these things they look like trees. They literally look like trees. When they're in the shadows, you can't tell what they are until they move. And so I'm looking at up the road. I'm like, what, Joe, is there supposed to be a tree in the middle of that road? He looked, I'm like, don't look, just slowly turn your head and just glance up there. He's like, no. And so it was daytime. I didn't want to use night vision binoculars because I didn't want to ruin the sensor in the camera. So I basically pulled up a day binocular, and a binocular is just basically, like binoculars with just the one, if anybody doesn't know what that means. So I'm sitting there and I'm zooming in, and he always used to tell me the black ones look like they're wearing sunglasses. And I'm like, he's nuts. What is he talking about, right? So I'm zooming in, and I can see the face. I mean, the head was just ginormous. This thing was massive. I mean, it was almost as tall as some of the trees around it. And so it actually, like mid-stride, it had turned. I think it saw that I saw it, so it was standing there like this, trying to look like a tree. And it did look like a tree. I didn't know it wasn't a tree until I got the binoculars out and saw it. And I'm sitting there staring at this thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And the skin's all flat around here. It had hair, of course, all the way around its face, but it looked like a monkey's face. Real flat, the flat lips, not like ours. And then the nose I didn't really look at the nose that much. It kind of looked like ours. But I'm like, wow, that eye is weird looking. It looked just solid black. And I mean, it was about the size of a baseball. And I'm
Was
like,
the face quite ugly? The face was quite ugly, was it?
no, well,
Quite
it wasn't real ugly. It wasn't very hairy covered. It had some hair up here, of course, just like hair,
Yeah,
like we have a beard.
yeah,
And then around the lips, just around this part of the lips, was
yeah,
actually just skin, like tan skin, and it
yeah,
was very flat and kind of wrinkly, like you'd see on a any kind of a primate. And then
yeah,
so I zoomed up to the eye. I'm like, what the hell? And it had this big black eye and a little white and like a quarter size pupil that was all white. I'm like, what the hell? So there's a theory that Bigfoots have bioluminescence around their eyes. And I'm almost wondering, like, sharks and alligators and stuff like that have some kind of a lens that comes over to protect their eyes when they go to eat
yeah,
something. I'm almost
yeah.
wondering, because everybody says, oh, they're nocturnal. That's not really true. They're not really nocturnal. They're both. They move around as they want to, but
Mm.
they're not really seen that much during the day. So, anyways, I'm wondering if they have some kind of filter that maybe slides down over their eyes or something like that, and maybe that little white part is where it was looking out, because it didn't have a normal eye like we did. But it was
No,
strange. It was just all black.
I call those squat fatter ones, if you like. They're squatter. I've seen a type 2 dogman, which is looks like a Bigfoot over here, and it's it's like a sumo wrestler. It's really stocky, really big. When it runs on all fours, but it stands up on two legs ordinarily to look around. But when it runs and wants to run quick, it'll go on all fours, quadrupedal. But it's got its eyes are really wide apart, very
Mhm.
wide apart. Flat face, really quite ugly. Like it's been in an accident, you know. But yeah, very little fur on the face itself. The
Yeah.
skin color is odd. The skin color was it was pale, but it was sort of a grey color pale. This was. It's like um just didn't look healthy, to be honest. But it was
Mm.
definitely something which, and I caught that on video. It was in a shack in this wood, walking along. I never saw it. Matt, I went straight past it. My dogs acted up, and of course I swung the camera around as I normally do. And it wasn't until I got home, because I said to the two dogs, I said, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Come on, look, stop barking. Come on, there's nothing there." And then I looked at the camera footage afterwards. Bing bang. One of my followers said, Phil, in that shack, we saw something moving. I looked, I blew it up, and yeah, you can see this big, wide face with like flat features and the eyes, and they're blinking as they're watching me. They're blinking, and it's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the strangest thing. Do you think they're they utilize things around them, I think, because this shack had a pallet up against it. However absurd that sounds, like a pallet used for transporting whatever tins of baked
Right.
beans, and yeah, had an old pallet leaning up against the shack. Do you think that with these structures that people see, the teepee structures, the X's and the Ys that people see, and they're uprooted trees sometimes, which are fixed in peculiar, sigils, even
Yep. The
almost look
teepees.
like signs.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
what do you think that's about?
I'm pretty sure that's basically them just. I think it's like territorial. Um, Going back to Joe's camp, I mean, I'd seen some structures out in Black Star Canyon, but not very many, which was strange. I noticed when I worked up at Joe's camp we were up there for like 4 years. We would find trees bent over. When he first called me, uh, I'd put an ad on Facebook, and he was telling me about all this stuff. The trees bent over. I found broken off trees, tree branches snapped, and all this other stuff, structure wise. And I'm like, and he kept telling me all this stuff. I'm like, this is too good to be true. But I just couldn't help myself. I had to go out there, and God, he was right. I mean, they literally bent trees over everywhere, and teepees. We found teepees. If you go watch Joe's camp on our YouTube channel, um, I mean, they literally broke off. I mean, pieces of bamboo that were like this thick literally just snapped. I mean, I tried to break a little tiny piece. I couldn't break it. I mean, bamboo is some of the hardest woods in the world. And then teepee structures everywhere. We found structures everywhere. We never found, like they say, nests. But we did find out, you know, his area is super sandy, but it's also got a lot of it because it's the forest, a lot of deadfall, a lot of dead branches and trees and stuff like that, and bark and stuff, leaves all over the ground. But there was a dugout area where they had basically, it was like a giant bathtub. That was my very first experience up there. I almost walked into a damn Bigfoot that night, using my little Sony cam with as much IR light as I could put on it. Now we have way upgraded to much better camera. We have a low light camera that can see 100 feet now easily. But back then you could only see like 4 or 5 feet. So we're walking around up there, and I hear a tree branch snap. I'm like, what the hell? And we look, and we just saw like a bunch of things. It looked like a bunch of bears running out of there towards the road next to his property. And literally all of a sudden I hear a tree branch snap. I'm like, what? And it made me turn my attention to the right, which I think they were distracting me from whatever was going on to the left of me, where they were all leaving. And then I took 2 more steps, and I hear this, you know, like a real guttural or growl, and I almost walked into a Bigfoot. Only reason I know is because I panned back to the camera, and literally not even in a second, you see me turn to the right, turn back to the left, because I was just panning the camera on trying to get anything, and literally I caught like a stomach with a bunch of hair. I almost walked right into it. But he had structures everywhere. We were constantly finding new structures when we went out there. And literally, I mean, you would walk through an area. I mean, the Bigfoots up there had a good sense of humor, I think. You'd walk through an area, and then you'd turn around like 2 minutes later, and you'd be like, wait, where did that tree, like where you just crossed, there was a tree pulled across. And you didn't hear anything. Or they'd take branches, and they'd pull branches across into another, you know, bush to block the path, or they put something in the way so you couldn't get in there, or they'd wedge, you know, there'd be 2 trees kind of like this, and they'd wedge a piece of another tree in between there so you couldn't walk across their path. But we found all kinds of tree structures up there. I found they had made in the bamboo, they'd made a structure like a teepee, you know, where they cross all that stuff there. I think they're kind of marking their territory. But another thing that we found is they make blinds, or they pull a tree across and put it into the ground. It would literally be shoved. The top of the tree, it wouldn't be very big. It'd be, you know, that big around, literally shoved into the ground. And then maybe some vine would be wrapped around that. And then you'd have like dead tree trunks or dead branches basically laid across it. And so I'm like, this is interesting. So I walked, his camp was like down the way about 40, 50 feet. And so I walked in behind this thing, and I'm looking at Joe. He's about 50, 60 feet away from me. He's working on something. And I said, hey, I walked behind it, and I said, Joe, can you see me? And he looks up, where are you? I can't see you. And I can see him clearly. I'm like, they're making blinds. And one of our videos in Joe's camp, if you watch all the way through the end, it's about an hour and a half video. I don't remember how long it is. It's a whole documentary of about 3 years worth of research. On one of his trap cams, we caught a deer kind of coming up, and then you see this Bigfoot, and it's literally hanging onto a tree up here, leaning down over here, and it basically peers around the corner from a blind, looking at the deer. And I think either one of us walked by at that point in time or something. It flung back, and it's like a split second. They're so damn fast.
Yeah.
And so I went through the rest of the video. If you watch 3 or 4 more videos that it recorded, it actually standing there, you can kind of see it moving back and forth. You can see the butt move behind a tree. It's crazy. But I think the structures are essentially, that's just their way of communication. You know, people say they lay out stuff. One night let me just get this in real quick. We were camping out one night at his property, and we kept hearing tree branches snap. And they literally took a tree that was about this wide. They literally bent it over. It was about a 30-foot tree. They bent it 2 trees over like this in the middle of the night, one in front of another. And so we're walking out there the next day, and I'm looking down. I'm like, what in the hell? They'd taken all these sticks and basically made weird symbols on the ground. I mean, there was one that looked like a star, one that looked like an A, and another looked like a square, and it looked like it was almost like a different language. And they'd written something out across there. I don't know what it meant, but it was interesting, and I could hear them moving around in the tree line behind where we were. It was really interesting. So, anyways,
yeah. Go on, Carl.
You got a picture of these symbols? Have you got any pictures?
I got it on video. It's in the Joe's camp, the second Joe's camp we did, documentary that's about an hour long. When I was walking over there, I took his dogs and we went into the bamboo, and I was looking around over there, and literally I was in there, and all of a sudden, literally a couple of feet away, I hear, I'm like, what the hell? It happened literally feet away from me, and I'm looking around, going, where the hell is this thing? It has to be right next to me. I couldn't find it. And so I don't know if they make a noise like I did with my tongue, or if they're actually hitting something. But Joe had lived up there for about 18 years, and he had figured out, at first he was terrified of them, but then he called us in, and he, as we explained to him, they're not trying to hurt you. They're just communicating, and they're not, if they wanted to hurt you, you'd be dead. I mean, he used to carry around a 45 Magnum and hollow tip. And you were asking about, how, can you kill a Bigfoot with, people are reporting they're shooting them and nothing's happening. I think that their fur is so thick, that must be a couple inches thick, that they're getting hit with the fur. I did see a video, and I talked to a hunter one time who shot one with a shotgun and blew out the side of its side of it, and it literally hobbled away, and it must have died somewhere, because I don't think it could have lived through that. But, unless you get a close-up shot with a heavy-duty weapon, you're probably not going to penetrate their fur. Some of them, the bigger ones, their fur must be 3 or 4 inches thick. I mean, it's just this blanket of heavy fur, and it almost must work like a bulletproof vest, if you will, because they're built like tanks. I mean, they're out in the wilderness. I mean, I don't know how thick their skin is. Must be harder than ours. But, I don't know if they've developed calluses or what. They must develop calluses or something on their feet. But
yes,
their skin
it's incredible. I mean, so like to absorb the impact of a 308 or a 45 hollow tip is
I mean, I don't think it could survive a hollow tip, but like somebody told me they shot it with, and this is a completely different story. Something came onto their farm one night. They thought it was a person, so they had buckshot in their shotgun, and they shot it from about 15 feet away. And they said the bullets basically just got caught in the fur. The little pellets got caught in the fur. And it pissed it off. Charged at them, and they ran back inside and banged on their door, then left them. So I mean, but if you hit it with a 45 up close, or a shotgun with a slug in it, you're probably going to do some damage to these things. But I mean, I've heard all kinds of stories. Like the military supposedly knows that they're real, and in certain times, I know Joe is telling me that he had seen military personnel come into his area with black helicopters, and them rappel down into the woods, and then would disappear for a while, and activity would just completely stop. So I've also heard there's a unit out there in the military in the U.S. at least, that deals with, and I've had lots of weird encounters with a lot of high up military personnel.
Do you know what, Matt? It's a lot of this, like the paranormal, from the paranormal to Bigfoot. It's the witness sightings are always nine times out of 10 always a personal thing. Usually a personal thing. If you see Bigfoot, you'll see it. Well, usually it'll be a singular one-on-one bump.
Right.
And it's always in the most absurd way. With paranormal and with Bigfoot, and it's like kind of like really absurd. The latest I've been hearing an awful lot of is people coming forward going, "Oh yeah, Phil, I saw Bigfoot and it was on a UFO. We saw a UFO. It was following the car, and we looked across, and inside it looked like a big hairy man looking out at us."
Yeah,
just absurd stuff. Absurd. It's almost as if they kind of stage it they stage it to be absurd as possible, so that when you recount the story, you're going to look like a nut job. You know?
So my research has led me to drop pins in a lot of locations. If you visually watch some of the podcasts I do, the video podcasts, you'll see me go through pins, and all through the so I haven't done the world yet, but I'm finding there's a pattern of you get hauntings, you get UFO sightings, you get Bigfoot, you get Dogman, and you get everything else in there. And one of my theories is maybe UFOs are abducting Bigfoots, and stuff like that. So, did you need to take a timeout?
It's up to no. If you guys need to take a time out, we can pause if you want. Okay. So what do you think to that, Matt, that we've swapped places? Do you think that's paranormal?
I definitely think it's paranormal. I came back in and all of a sudden you guys were on the opposite side. I was like, I had to clean my glasses just to make sure I wasn't seeing things.
I've had a little look at your website. I've got to bring it up because it's a fantastic, absolutely really nice website. I'm going to get this shared up and here just so that people can see.
Yeah, you can find our podcast, our YouTube channel on there as well. If you go to our actual website, this is our podcast website, but if you go to deepwoodsparanormal.com, you can also find all this as well.
Right. Let me just okay.
I didn't send that to you, but you guys, it's on the links are in our podcast as well. So if you ever want to go to that,
hang on, let me take that down and move.
Who came up with the name?
Guys, can you see that is it come up? Because I'm really trying hard to get this up, but Deepwood's Paranormal. Can you see it on screen or not?
Not yet.
No? Okay, right. For some reason, I don't know, it won't let me share your website. It might be because right, okay. Yeah, it may not then, because if you've got security on your website, it may not allow it to be shared. Okay, let's try a Spreaker so people can have a little look, because I've got to say, Matt, you put the time and the effort and energy into what you do. You certainly do. Let's have a look at Spreaker. I think this might work. Okay.
Yeah,
that works, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay,
so
that's good.
Scroll down. If you want to, go back into my early days, you can scroll all the way back down to, episode, I think it's 4 or 5. That I transferred over to Speaker. Like I said, the first 10 or so were not very good episodes, although a lot of people listen to them. I don't have those out publicly anymore, but yeah. So you can go through, and like I said, we have over 200 podcasts on here. We've done probably closer to 220, 230. But some podcasts, after I go through and review them, I'm like, I just rambled on about nothing for 15, 20 minutes. And so I just deleted them and started over, did a different podcast. I'll be doing a podcast later today on Bigfoot. So okay. But yeah, we've been doing this a long time now, and I enjoy it. Kind of gives me an outlet to tell people my stories and stuff like that. And again, we don't just talk about Bigfoot or ghosts. We talk about UFOs. We have guests on that talk about like Laura, who has had multiple Bigfoot encounters. UFO abductions. In fact, she even talks about Bigfoot in one of her alien abductions, Bigfoot being on a ship with her and stuff like that.
I was listening to, because during work, what I was doing is I was listening to a lot of your podcasts, and I heard the one on Annabelle. Really interesting, that Annabelle doll. That was a real interesting one.
It reminds me of this one behind me. This is Andy. Raggedy Andy. But
Raggedy Andy.
Yeah, Raggedy Andy is also haunted, but not demonically, thank God.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Annabelle is more demonically haunted and not somebody you want to mess with. So
okay.
I've actually done a podcast with him sitting on my lap before. It's been pretty interesting. So
Well, what would you say is your natural go-to? Would it be the paranormal side, the UFO side, or the cryptid side, or all of it? Would you lump it all as one and just love it?
I like it all. I'm more into the Bigfoot research right now, just because I've been doing ghost hunting for 30 years. I live with ghosts. literally, I live with ghosts. I have things happen all the time. You talking about things moving earlier and stuff like that. I get, unfortunately, demonically attacked from time to time, jabbed in the side or whatever. Things move on me all the time. It's like, no, don't move that. And it moves, of course. Doors closing, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, my house is heavily protected, basically very religiously protected and energy wise protected as well. I talked to an energy worker, like we were talking about the hello sign or welcome sign. I had to take that down. I had to move that inside because the psychic told me there's like a conveyor belt of spirits coming through your front door and going out your back door. And we're like, what? One night I had this on and sitting in the living room, I had the ghost box on. Let me put it this way so you can see it. And I was just trying to tune it because we were doing an investigation that night. And all these names start coming through. And they're weird names. And I realized after I listened to it for about half an hour, it was just name after name after name after name. They were Polish and Ukrainian names and Russian names. And I said, who are you? And it said, they're basically, it was the dead soldiers from Ukraine and Russia. Because I had what I had. I didn't even realize I had the news on. They were talking about Ukraine. And so, like we were talking about earlier, signs of intelligent haunts, where they were, trying to talk. They were just spouting their names off. I'm like, okay, I got to go, guys. And then they were quiet for a second. I'm like, okay, good. I'm gonna turn it off, turn it back on to see if I could reset it. And again, the names start spouting out. And this went on for 2 hours. I'm like, holy crap. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a conveyor belt coming through my house of spirits sometimes. So anyways, if you're going to get into the paranormal, be very careful. Like the three of us have done, you got to protect yourself. People don't know this when you leave a location that, if you want to call it haunted or is actively, there's ghosts or whatever, always clear yourself. As I always say, somebody told me when I first started, thank God, when you get in the car, turn it on, make sure it runs, get down the road to the first stop sign, for stoplight, for stop, whatever. Even if you're only going a couple blocks, if there's anything with me, can't come home with me.
I agree with you, Matt. I think so. I think there's two types of people when it comes to paranormal, especially, and that is like the ones which just don't want to know and are blinkered and kind of like maybe that's unfair to say blinkered, but the ones which are very black and white. No, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. There's no way in the world that there's the rational explanation for that, for that doll moving its eyes. There's a rational explanation for that door closing itself when I asked it to close. There's a rational explanation for everything.
Right.
Those type of people, which like, and it's fascinating, really, that they will critique an awful lot in their life, but they won't entertain criticizing or their own experiences when it comes to stuff can happen to them. And I've been in ghost hunts with people like that, and stuff has happened, and they won't. It's like as if they blanket. They don't want to know about it. If they can't dissect it and take it apart and process it in their own head, they just don't want to know. And it kind of so infuriating. People like us, we get tagged by it. It tags us. It's kind of, I find this. Do you find that it's sort of it's like it's, oh wow, Matt can see us. Right, come on, everyone, crowd round.
Right.
That's it. Right, yeah. Hey, UFOs, come down. So it's like that, isn't it?
Well, no, I've had multiple times where I've heard my name come through a spirit box, or we got it on EVPs, or somebody even called me from California. Hey, Matt, we're at this location where we used to investigate quite often, like the Queen Mary or whatever. They're asking for you. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think that what happens is the more you research the paranormal, like we all have been doing this a long time, the more they get used to you, the more they know you. And I think it's almost like, people gossip in real life. I think that ghosts do the same thing. They know to go to you, especially if they have a problem. Like they come to me to cross over. I'll try, and I'm sure you do the same thing. We try and cross them over. Getting into people that are skeptical. I love skeptics. The problem is that I take people into locations that I know, and I'll call it haunted. Very few places are what you can call truly haunted. You take skeptics into these locations and things happen. And I found I've had a lot of skeptics come with us over the last 30 years. And what I find is that a lot of people, they need to rationalize it because they're just terrified of it. They're so scared of it, they don't want it to be real. And I understand that. They just can't have it be real. And I understand. And there's some people that they don't care if it's real or not. They're gonna explain it away, which is fine too. I welcome everybody, whether you're a believer, a knower, a skeptic, you're on the fence. And our podcast is all about that. Like I always say, I don't expect anyone to believe in any of this until they've had their own encounter where they can say it can't be anything else but. And you can put anything in there, ghost, UFO, whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody really has to make up their own minds as to what they're experiencing. I've had so many experiences. At this point, I can't say it's not paranormal because I've lived through it. And I'm sure you have, and you guys have too. I mean, once you've experienced it enough, it's just, and people that are skeptic, they're not experiencing it like we are. They don't, the more you get into religion, the more you get into these things, the more you start to battle these negative entities. I'll call them negative entities. The more encounters you'll have. Once you start into this, I always tell people, don't get into ghost hunting unless you're serious about it, because there's no out. There really is no out. I've tried to quit a few times and it just sucks you right back in. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah.
Once you've seen the paranormal, whatever it is, Bigfoot, UFO, ghosts, whatever, it sucks you in, and yeah, that's it. You're done. You're stuck in it. Whether you want to be or not, it comes back to you.
On that rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I don't mind if people are like that. And honestly, it's good. When we first started, I purposely went out and found a TAPS family member team. If you've ever seen the show Ghost Hunters with Jason and Grant and all those guys, we purposely sought out a TAPS family member team, and we became a TAPS family member team too when I ran the California Ghost Hunters. And they taught us to debunk, which is great, because if you're not careful, everything's a ghost. And it goes the other way around too. Oh, that's this, you can explain everything away too. But you really do have to rationalize as much as you can, because if you don't, everything will be paranormal evidence. And you don't want that, because if I present something to you, let's say you're skeptics, and I present something to you, I present a video of a Bigfoot, but it's blurry and you can't quite tell what it is. And I'm telling you, that's 100% that's a Bigfoot. And you're going, yeah, I don't know, bud. You know what I mean? You have to have really good evidence, and you can't explain everything away as paranormal either. So you have to have like that middle line. I don't present anything unless I know for sure that nobody can pick it apart. It has to be really good before I'll ever present any evidence. I have hours and hours and hours of audio of EVPs and ghosts, video of Bigfoot. I have blob squatches. I have all that stuff, but I don't present any of that.
I put microphones in trees. I kind of like just leave them. I leave them in trees. I go back to them. I'll sift through. 12, 24, 32 hours worth of audio in one sitting. Sort of like what I'll do is I use a computer with some software so I can see the peaks and troughs to see what I should like. But if I was, because we've got to wrap up soon, and hopefully we can get you on a live so people can actually talk to you, chat with you, and I think that'd be a really cool idea, because you got a wealth of knowledge. You really have, Matt. My question I'd like to ask you is, has there been any experience you've had that has really messed with your head, but you just can't get out of your head, and you think, crikey, that is just insane. That was just insane. Barring the exorcism, barring that.
Probably my first Bigfoot sighting. I keep reliving it over. I can see it like it was yesterday, and going from a non-believer to, oh my gosh, they're real, and having that oh my gosh moment. I mean, I'm still getting chills from. I can still see it today. I still talk about it like it just happened, and realizing, oh my gosh, that kind of opened a door to me. Oh my gosh, there's something else out there in the woods. And as one black ops, special ops guy told me a long time ago, if you really knew what's in the woods, you wouldn't go in the woods. There's a reason they don't want you to know that these things exist, because nobody would go out there. Nobody would visit the national parks and stuff. There's if you ever seen the movie Predator, that's real. That's real. It may not be an alien, but it's real. There's something out there that is cloaked, and it's not a Bigfoot. And they look like Bigfoots, but I've actually seen one move, and it's like, wait, what? And the more I research Bigfoot, it's just the more I'm drawn into it. And, that just changed my life. I mean, I went from just being a ghost hunter to being more open to other ideas, because I wasn't really into aliens at that point, but it kind of pulled me into aliens, and then Dogman and all that. It just kind of opened up a whole spectrum that I wasn't even looking into, a whole different world of the paranormal that I never researched before. So
have you ever
I think
seen Matt? Can I ask Matt? Have you ever seen two things really? Have you ever seen? I mean, I got a lot of grief over this because I found and I've photographed and videoed a bark which had been stripped back off a branch. So a branch on the trees, and a bark had been stripped back and then tied in a very careful knot. I've come across that quite a few times. And I've had a lot of grief over that because biologists and naturists have said, "Oh no, it's a deer." And I said, "Well, yeah, deer do strip back bark with their antlers, and because the antlers get in a right state sometimes, really bloody and just like look awful. It doesn't hurt them, but it's just they do that with bark. But to tie it all in a knot, that that's like kind of weird.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, and have you? I had an experience in the forest where I saw a group of deer, and this group of deer were looking at something, and my dogs were going crazy. I got two Jack Russells, but Jack Russells are surprisingly good spotters. They can see, and they sense stuff really well because they're working dogs. They're ratters and stuff.
Right.
So, and they were going crazy and just defending me, running around my feet in a circle and stuff like that. And I was like trying to sort them out. I was like, "Hey, calm down, calm down."
Right.
And then I looked back up with my camera because I love the deer, and I was looking at something. There's three of them, and they're looking at something. And then I put the camera back up again after sorting the dogs out. And what the deer were looking at was this golden shimmering entity. And this golden shimmering entity was just it must have been I would want to say it's about 500 yards away.
Yeah.
So it was a fair distance, but it was just silver and gold shimmering. Got it on video, and behind it you can see this big large praw. It must have been, I reckon, at least 12 foot tall, 12 14 foot tall entity, Bigfoot entity coming out of the forest towards it, this shimmering entity. Have you ever seen anything not specific, but like a shimmering of an entity in the forest? Not particularly gold or silver, but have you seen anything shimmering?
Yeah, I've seen that before. A lot of the times that's usually what a ghost looks like. Sometimes they'll it could be a ghost or it could be a portal too. A friend of mine sent me recently, about a year ago, we had an experience where we were at the same jail. We had a lot of weird things happen in that jail where we were using the ghost box, and all of a sudden my wife was down the way with a bunch of people. Their K2s just start lighting up and staying lit up all the way across. I mean, the lights were like this as it goes all the way across. They were all the way here, and they didn't stop lighting up. Now, these are super sensitive. There's no electricity up there. So we know, we checked everywhere, and out of the ghost box clearly comes portal. And then you hear the word, exactly. You hear portal, and then you hear demon, and then you hear angel. And I'm like, what the hell? And at that same exact time, my friend texts me, and he lives in the forest, different forest, not the Sabine National Forest. He lives down south towards Houston. Matt, a portal just opened up in my backyard, and a bunch of entities just came through it. And he saw exactly what you saw, like a glimmering yellow gold light, and he saw like silhouettes of things coming through it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a portal of something coming through. And then, Bigfoots could be interested in that. Maybe they saw it too. Maybe they're just curious of what it was. Maybe they came through it, or maybe they're going to go through it. I don't know. I know a lot of people say they're interdimensional, which I don't think they are. But maybe they saw it too. Could be maybe some kind of alien activity, if you will. Maybe it's a rip in the through the portal. Maybe a time traveling kind of thing, where somebody from the future is coming into our world, who knows, or going away. There's a lot of different possibilities. Again, you really have to put your crazy hat on to kind of think of what this is. As a witness, what you've seen, I've seen something very similar. Didn't get it on recording, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, for me, that sounds more like a portal. And if you saw things coming through it, to get to the religious side of things, seems like there's a lot more spiritual activity going on right now with things coming into our world, both good and bad. Like they're trying to influence what's going on, if you will. Maybe stop something or start something from happening. But yeah, that sounds a lot like a portal. Or it could have been an angelic entity. If it's white and gold, that sounds more like an angelic entity. Usually a white silhouette or a white shadow person is usually angelic in nature. Black is usually human, in my opinion, or sometimes it's demonic. Depends on the situation. But that just sounds like a portal, or possibly, and if you saw things coming through, it could have just been spirits crossing into our world, or something else crossing into our world. Again, I know that sounds nuts for people that are skeptical. That's fine. Again, this is just my stories, my research. That's things I've experienced. I've seen, like I said, a lot of things beyond.
Are you thinking? Are you going to maybe bring a book out, or?
We were looking at it, and then I basically, my book is through my podcasts. I mean, my whole life story is basically in my podcast. If you start listening, I go back into my childhood, and then where I started, and all the way through till now. It's all basically in my podcast. I find that more people listen to audio than will actually sit down and read a book these days. More people like to just listen. So I'd rather just get my story out through my podcast. And that's basically what my podcast is about. The people that come on, it's just basically allowing people to tell their stories and explain what they've experienced and stuff like that. Like I said, there's no judgment on our channel. We have believers, non-believers, people on the fence, skeptics, and all that stuff. We have, everybody. And on my channel, I basically try not to influence anybody anyway, so that they can make up their own minds as to what they believe it was. That way we don't ever have any issues.
Because you've got some really cool. I just want to tell the people at home some of the podcasts they can listen to, and they're really absolute. I mean, I have been listening to them. I must admit, I haven't seen the video one because I've been at work, so it's easier, like you said, to listen.
Right. Driving down the road, turn the podcast on, and sit there and listen.
It's just some of them are brilliant, Matt. Like, okay, you got one here, 27th of December 24. Are the Dogman populations on the rise here in Texas? That's for definitely. That's one to listen to. Hugh Knight of Northwest Yeti Quest is our guest tonight to talk about all things Sasquatch. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Hugh Knight. Yeah. You got another one. Oh wow, yeah, this one you got to listen to. Unveiling the secrets of Brown Mountain Ghost Lights eyewitness account. I mean, seriously, yes. So you've got some really good podcasts on your channel, and I would honestly urge people, just to check it out. Because it's well worth it. And would you come on again on maybe a live so people could talk to you?
Yeah, definitely. And I'd love to have you guys on my podcast too, because I know you have your own experiences. It would
Yeah.
be amazing to just sit there and listen to you guys talk. And that's what our podcast is about, people being allowed to get their stories out. So
yeah, love to do that. What about you, Carl? You up for that?
Yep, I'm into that. Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
We didn't get to talk to you very much, Colin. I would love to hear about your past stories and stuff too. It would be amazing to have you come on.
Earlier, I could listen to you all day.
Yeah.
You just have one of them voices and experiences that you just
yeah. Yeah.
mouth open. I mean, we ain't got the woods that you have over there, and I mean, we're boots on the ground guys, even fillies, but we don't come across things like that. We do get experiences and sightings, but not like what you see guys over there. I'm jealous, and I've always said to Phil, I want to go to America and I want to study in America. Yeah,
I mean, there's so many places, in England, and Ireland, and Scotland. We've had the chance to go to Ireland and Scotland. We've had cool experiences there. My wife and I,
Scotland.
My family's been lucky enough to be able to travel around some parts of the world. I've been throughout the whole United States, and we've had experiences pretty much everywhere in almost every state. But I would love to come to England. You guys have so many cool places.
We look after you.
Yeah, if I ever get to England, I'll call them both of you. Take me to your cool locations. I'd love to go investigate with you guys.
For sure. If you come over, wow, I know at least
like
three really
more.
haunted places.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
And no, that'll be good. And okay, I'm going to wrap this up, guys, because it is getting on to nearly 2 hours, and I'm going to go and get a cup of tea because I'm British.
Yeah. Tea is nothing but tea, man. I'm drinking my coffee right now. Yeah.
Thank you, Colin from the Dark 66. Thank you for coming on, and
You're welcome.
It's been really cool.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
That's fine. And once again, guys, please check out Deep Woods Paranormal. Welcome to our paranormal podcast. Just check it out. It's got tons of content, and I thoroughly recommend it.
Unbelievable.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Matt, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it.
Okay, cool. Bye, mate.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, wow. What did you think, Carl? Brilliant.
Amazing. What an amazing guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait till he comes on again.
Way over my head.
The experiences he had is just incredible, isn't it?
Well, I'm jealous. I'm absolutely jealous. It's just,
he was talking about
ever since I was 14 to see a Bigfoot. I think I have seen one, not like them, but just to go out and see it nearly every day or whatever, or even live amongst them in the woods would be just a dream of mine. Maybe one day, Phil. Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe so. But hey, look, we got some things coming up soon, so we'll be okay.
Yes, we have. Yes.
But
we'll see.
We'll be all right. Yeah, we'll hunt it out at the end of the day. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching. From Colin myself, would you say, Carl? Brilliant. It's been really enjoyable.
Good night, everybody. Take care.